got caught up on some sleep last night. Nice hotel room. Everything I needed was good to go. Let's check out the town a little bit before we start heading back west and south. And once we get going that way, we're going to be on Route 113. And I think there are more towns or communities along the way that way than there were yesterday on 167, which there were hardly any. There was one right at the beginning, and then there wasn't much after that. So we'll see what we can find on the way back. Chibougamau is the largest town in Nord du Quebec, which is the largest and least populated of 17 administrative regions in Quebec. Located on Lake Gilman, has a population of 7,233. The name means gathering place in the Cree language. It's long been part of the Cree territory. It was in the early 17th century that French explorers and traders came to the area. However, no permanent European settlements were established at that time. The late 19th century would attract the interest of mining prospectors. Gold was discovered in 1903, but the difficulty of access to this area caused no lasting development at that time. Not until 1949 was copper first mined and a permanent community established in 1952. Started out as a company town, but soon afterward was incorporated as a municipality in 1954. While it's still thought of as a mining town, it's now also a center of large logging and sawmill industry. You can see the population rose to over 10,000 there in the late 70s and early 80s, has gone down quite a bit since then, but has pretty much leveled out in the 7,000 range in the 21st century. This is where we went in our previous video, all the way up there. And now we're going to head back this way to the south. And in the first part of the video, there's a couple dots on the map. We'll go check those out. Two things. I found a really awesome country music radio station in northern Quebec, or I don't know if this is northern Quebec, what is considered when you look at the map, but it's way up here. Anyways, really good radio station, 103.9. They play good country music, not just, kind of popular country music. But anyways, the other thing I was going to mention was everybody speaks French up here, and something in the 90%, people speak French. People speak enough English that you can figure it out. And actually, in town last night, the manager at the hotel, or the person I checked in with, and then when I went across the street to eat dinner, they spoke English. And now they spoke French too, but good English. I'm guessing in those service areas, not a problem. So if you're wondering, you can get by if you only speak English. But, try to learn some French words, and they'll probably laugh at you, but at least they'll see you're trying. But the other interesting thing that I didn't think about was when I was watching YouTube last night, the last couple of days actually, every ad is in French.
because it knows where you're at. It knows you're in a French-speaking area. So you're watching your regular YouTube video, and then an ad comes on and it's all French. So I'm not sure if YouTube, I guess they just assume where you're at is what language you speak, but they also know so much about you that I would think that they would have you watch their ads in your language. So I don't know. I found that strange.
This is a small village of Chapais. It was first settled in 1929 when a prospector discovered deposits of copper, silver, and gold in the area. It was named for Thomas Chapais, who was a French-Canadian author, journalist, and politician. It was incorporated as a city in 1955. Copper mines operated until 1991. With the closure of the mines, the community's primary industry has been forestry. Population peaked in the late 70s and early 80s at around 3,000, a little over 3,000, and down to 1,468 today. So since the early 80s, it's lost half of its population. Some history of the village, but I can't read it. Northern Quebec remained sparsely populated for centuries, with indigenous families moving seasonally until European fur traders established permanent posts along the James and Hudson Bay in the late 1500s and inland here near Waswanipi in the late 1700s. The Northwest Company opened the first full-time trading post around 1775. No more than about 40 indigenous families lived across the vast territory. These small hunting groups dispersed in winter and gathered in summer, trading furs periodically at various posts. By the early 1900s, only a few families visited the post at a time due to limited supplies and remote travel. Major changes followed in the 1950s as mining, forestry, roads, and railways brought an influx of non-indigenous settlers, dispersing many Waswanipi families to nearby towns. The old post declined and closed in 1965. After years of debate and government delays, the community was finally reestablished at this current site in 1977 under the James Bay and Northern Quebec Agreement. Continuing south, we're going to go through some more communities, and 113 will eventually end right there.
It's different exploring up here, and when you see like a dot on the map and there's really nothing there, you kind of wonder why it's named what it is. But most of the places here are, there's a lot of camping areas. There's not a lot of like old buildings. And as I say that, I'm kind of driving through one. That was one of the first places that feels a little bit like a ghost town that you might see in the United States. But most of the dots on the map are to do with like lakes and camping areas and recreational places. So definitely different. Mostly just real scenic driving as it was on 167, but a few more things here on 113. Stopping at the Petro Canada for a little snack and a short little break. So you find some buildings here and there, some municipal buildings, but it's unique and interesting. And so hopefully you find some of it interesting. I went to the restroom and I think I went to the right restroom. I think it was a, like, what do you say? Non-gender restroom. There was just one restroom. But it was like a regular restroom, and there was a woman in there, and I went in as a little bit, this is just different. but nobody said anything to me, so I think I did the right thing.
This is Senneterre, population 2,782. While the site was first a trading post, real settlement didn't start till about 1904, when the first permanent settlers arrived. The completion of the railroad in 1913 accelerated development of the community, and by 1919, the municipality was incorporated. It developed into a center for forestry, commerce, and tourism. Population figures peaked in the late 70s and early 80s, like some of these other communities we visited today, and it's lost about a third of its population. We are wrapping up the trip. This part of the road feels different. There's just houses pretty consistently along here, and little businesses and lakes like there has been the whole time, but there's just more people. So this little stretch, these last 20 miles or so of the road of 113, definitely feels different than the previous 100 and whatever it was. So pretty cool last couple days, and my overall kind of impressions are, it's very different than the United States, even though we're very close. Now, I'm sure there's parts of Canada that are more similar to the United States, but here on this trip, there wasn't any like huge mountains, there wasn't like huge bridges or something across the water. Sorry, the road's been pretty rough today, even though it's paved the whole way. It's been a fairly rough road. So it's just a little bit different than when you take like some trips to Alaska, or you're way out west where it's just more vast and there's like no trees. There's trees everywhere here. But it's still definitely very beautiful. And the towns are different too, and they're set up different. And I imagine, some of that is different because of weather. Because we're here in the summer, but they have to be built for some pretty cold weather times. So towns develop differently, and obviously it's a different country, so there's different theories and there's different economic pluses and minuses to being in different countries. But it's all interesting to me. I've enjoyed it, and hope you have too.
Hey, thanks for making it all the way to the end of that video. And since you're here, let me tell you a little bit more about the extras on the channel. One of the first things you can do is become a member. There are 3 levels of support. There's supporter, producer, and executive producer levels. All 3 have different levels of fun incentives and perks. If you haven't done so, please check out travelwiththewiseguy.com. There are lots of extras on there to explore. One of them is merchandise. We have Travel with the Wise Guy coffee mugs, Death Go Round t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and all sorts of fun things to show your support of this channel. Also on the website is a custom Google map. I've dropped pins in every place I've visited and linked the episode to each location. This seems to be a very popular feature for many of you. Also, sign up for my free newsletter that goes out about once a month. There are all sorts of links and tidbits on this page, old videos, podcasts, and just about everything I can think of I throw on the website. Get all that information on travelwiththewiseguy.com.